Hello and welcome back to our Lord of the Rings LCG solo progression series, and today's quest is the Dunland Trap, which is the first adventure pack in the Ringmaker cycle, and this is the continuation of the story introduced in the Voice of Isengard Deluxe expansion. A quick reminder, in this series we're playing through each quest in chronological order of the game's initial release, and we'll only be using player cards that were available at the time of this quest's release. I'm calling this deck Let the Bodies Hit the Table. This is a very combat-heavy scenario, and so we'll be putting out a lot of cheap allies and chumping as much as we can to keep Beorn alive. And I will say Dunland Trap is my favorite quest so far in the progression. I really like this quest a lot. I think why I like it is it just feels alive. It feels sentient. Like when you're playing a human opponent, obviously sometimes you think you've got this winning strategy and then they thwart you. And it's just that feeling, I think, when I'm playing this scenario. It feels like the deck, it's not just bad things could happen like sudden pitfall or whatever. It's not swingy. It's just that all the cards really interact. And I just adore this quest. I don't know. It's the best one so far, at least to me. So hopefully this playthrough will prop up that statement. So when I was building this deck, I was using Glorfindel instead of Elrond, and I was wishing that I had lore access, but I needed Glorfindel. And then it finally dawned on me. I was like, oh yeah, Elrond can pay for allies of any sphere. I had just forgotten about that, and so he really works well, way better than Glorfindel, though our threat will be a little higher, obviously. But we can pay for any ally if Elrond is in play. And so we also then now have access to Ranger Spikes and Mine of the Iron Hills, because I didn't like just having Power of Orthanc for condition cancellation. And so the condition discarding is a lot better now with 6 cards that can take care of conditions. And then we now have a really great card for this quest. I've never used it yet. Expert Treasure Hunter came out and on the doorstep. It's a lore event. It's skill traded, 0 cost. It can be attached to a hero, 1 per hero. And the response says, after attached hero quests successfully, name a card type and discard the top card of your deck. If the discarded card is the named type, take it into your hand. And so hopefully we'll see that work for us in this quest. Let's get to the quest and see how we do. All right, opening hand is great. Okay, we've got 2 Expert Treasure Hunters, so there won't be any doubt. If I didn't have one, I would have mulliganed and hoped to get one. I really like to start off with Light of Valinor and Expert Treasure Hunter. I also really like to have Feigned or Wizard's Voice, so good opening hand for sure. And a chump ally to go with it. Can't really ask for better. Okay, so the road to Tharbad. You are following the Old South Road from Isengard to Tharbad on an errand for Saruman when you are attacked by wild men of Dunland. For setup, we set Chief Turk and Manuv, I won't even try to say this, the Ravine aside out of play. So here are those 2 cards. Chief Turk looks like a soccer hooligan, and here is the Ravine. They're out of play for now. Make Old South Road the active location. Here's Old South Road. And it says force at the end of the refresh phase, remove 1 time counter from the current quest. So in the Ringmaker cycle, you have the time counter mechanic. And then each player searches the encounter deck for a Boar Clan enemy and puts it into play engaged with him. So all the enemies in this deck are Dunland enemies. And we've seen a few of them like Dunland Chieftain, Dunland Tribesman, and then this guy that Beorn hated so much in Fords of Isen, Dunland Berserker. But there are 2 enemies that are specific to this quest that are Boar Clan type. So here we go. Boar Clan Stalker is Dunland and Boar Clan. And then Boar Clan Warrior is also Boar Clan. We're going to choose Boar Clan Warrior and put it into play and engage with us. And he says, force, after the engaged player draws any number of cards, deal Boar Clan Warrior a shadow card. So that'll apply at any point, including like the resource phase. Okay, we shuffled the deck. Stage 1B, and that guy looks like he's having a bad day. Middle-earth chiropractor much? I don't know. That's just horrible looking. 18 progress needed. Already weary from a full day of travel, you struggle to hold off the ferocious Dunlanding attack. You must rally your companions and drive back the enemy, or you will be defeated. All right, 2 time counters are placed on the quest. We have to make 18 progress, which is quite a bit. You'll see how this works, but it's going to take us a few rounds. Maybe as little as 4, sometimes 6. We'll have to remove a time counter at the end of every refresh phase. And so when we do the final one, when it's finally removed, the final time counter, the second one, forced, after the last time counter is removed from the stage, each player discards his hand and draws 2 cards, placing 2 time counters back on the stage. So you don't want to get too attached to the cards in your hand. You'll be discarding them every couple of rounds. Okay, so resource phase. We draw a card, and when we do, Borkland Warrior has this forced effect. After the engaged player draws any number of cards, deal Borkland Warrior a shadow card. All right, so we already has one, even here during planning. And so we're going to attach both of these expert treasure hunters to Aowen and to Elrond, 1 per hero, and we'll see how they work in just a minute. So they actually, let's do a toggle trigger here during questing, during quest resolution. That's when you actually determine that you've quested successfully, and it's just going to maybe help me remember, because sometimes I forget about this card. Okay, we want a chump, and we want to be able to play feint. So let's put out Sylvan Refugee, and there we go. So we're going to quest with Aowen and with Elrond. I say we want a chump, but I think we could just quest with Sylvan Refugee for now. And we reveal Plains of Enidwife. Okay, so we made 7 progress. Let's use this action of Aowen's. Action, discard 1 card from your hand to give Aowen +1 willpower until the end of the phase. We'll discard Miner of the Iron Hills. Yeah, doesn't really matter. So that boosts her until the end of the phase. And I haven't done that twice, have I? No. So we made 8 progress. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And actually I messed up, even though I did the toggle triggers. So you determine that you've quested successfully before you place progress. We learned this in Hunt for Gollum. So this response says, after attached hero quests successfully, which both of these characters did, we name a card type and discard the top card of your deck. If the discarded card is the named type, take it into your hand. So I can say ally, I can say event, or I can say attachment. I don't really need any allies. I don't really need any events, but I wouldn't mind getting Light of Valinor. So I'm going to say Light of Valinor for both instances of this. Or I'm going to say attachment, I should say. Ally, and there we go, Light of Valinor. Cool. And so when we did that, we did not draw it. And so all the cards that trigger negatively from us drawing cards, they won't apply. This is why this card's so great for this quest. Okay, so we've determined we quested successfully, and in response did this, and now we place a progress, 8 progress. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. This leaves play. It goes to the victory display. Let's go ahead and get rid of this threat. We'll travel here. It's not a big deal. This just means that while it's the active location, players do not draw cards during the resource phase. Okay, during combat, Borkland Warrior will attack for 3, and we'll just go ahead and play feint so he can't attack us, because there's one shadow card in particular says the attacking enemy cannot be damaged for the rest of the round. There's also one that says the enemy makes another attack. So with whenever it's possible, you want to play feint. So he does not attack. Let's see what the shadows were. Yeah, he would have made an additional attack. Well, let's attack for 5 and destroy Borkland Warrior. All right, so that's 1 round. Refresh. At the end of the refresh phase, we remove a time counter. So remember, at the end of next round, we will not we'll be discarding our hand. And we can't progress, so there's no way we're going to make it to stage 2 with these cards in hand. All right, so next round. And remember, while this is the active location, players do not draw cards during the resource phase, so I'm just going to shuffle the Miner of the Iron Hills back into our deck. Let's put out Light of Valinor. This is a great card to have. I'm really set. I'm so excited that I have Light of Valinor and 2 Expert Treasure Hunters. Okay. And maybe even more excited that I have a feint. So if an enemy comes out, we can just feint it. So feeling pretty good here. This quest with Eowyn and with Elrond and with Sylvan Refugee, I don't have to worry about chumping. All right, we reveal low on provisions. When revealed, each player must assign X damage among characters he controls, where X is the number of characters that player controls. Okay, so I have to do 4 damage. Let's go ahead and just take out Sylvan Refugee. So that's 1. And the other 3 I'll put on Eowyn and on Beorn. And we quested successfully, and so in response to that, we can name a type of card and discard our cards. 2 cards, 1 per Expert Treasure Hunter. And if I say an ally or attachment, it's just going to be discarded. But maybe I would get an Elrond's Council that could help me lower my threat. So let's do that. We're saying event. Okay, we didn't get one. And I should have. I don't think I used Eowyn's action, but I should have. Yeah. So we'll say we discarded this during the action window during the staging to boost Eowyn. And we made 8 progress, so 6 on the current quest. And there we go. And so we'll refresh. At the end of the refresh phase, we remove a time counter, meaning this forced effect fires. After the last time counter is removed from this stage, each player discards his hand and draws 2 cards. All right, so we have these attachments. We can just discard these with Eowyn's action. Okay, so next round, and we have a clear board. Pretty cool. All right, we're going to quest. And I don't really want to advance this round. We should have put 2 time counters on the road to Tharbad. So let's actually not progress. So we'll probably not make 7 progress, but let's just see what we get. We reveal Frenzied Attack. When revealed, each player draws a card. All right, and then we discard each ally from hand. If no allies are discarded this way, Frenzied Attack gains Surge. So it didn't surge, and we can advance if we want to, but I just want to wait just a little bit longer. So let's put 7 progress on this quest. But we quested successfully. I think we want allies, so let's discard cards. We're going to say ally. Okay, we didn't get one, and we didn't get one. Goodness, I'm not really getting lucky with Expert Treasure Hunter. It did yield a Light of Valinor. Okay, we made 7 progress and did not quite advance. Refresh, and at the end of the refresh phase, we remove a time counter. We will move on this round. Okay, there's an ally. And let's go ahead and put it out. Gondorian Spearmen, and we'll put out Ranger Spikes. And we're going to quest and reveal Hithagler Foothills is going to surge. This has a threat of X. X is the number of resource tokens on this card. The forced effect is after a player draws any number of cards, place 1 resource token on here so the threat can kind of climb up. I don't love to see this right before we advance. It's going to surge into low on provisions. Not so good. When revealed, each player must assign X damage among characters he controls. X is the number of characters that player controls. I control 4. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to try to use Elrond to defend, and so I'm going to put the damage on Beorn, and I don't want to destroy my Gondorian Spearmen. Okay, so we've quested successfully. We want allies. So let's use Expert Treasure Hunter and say ally twice. 1, 2. There's an ally. And we made 7 progress. And we cleared the road to Tharbad. Had a little bit of bad luck there with some of the cards we drew. Instead of having allies, we have these duplicates, but oh well. So we've progressed a well-laid trap. You've driven back the attackers, but some of them seized your bags during the fight and took them as they fled. Inside one of those bags is the gold that Saruman gave you for your quest, so you pursue the thieves deeper into Dunland. When revealed, make the ravine the active location, returning any current active location to the staging area. Here is the ravine. Dunland enemies get +1 attack and defense. Right now there aren't any, which is rare for my playthroughs to not have any enemies at this point. Each player discards each item and each mount attachment he controls. These are all, they're not item or mount attachment, skill and condition. And then each player chooses one ally he controls and discards each other ally. So we have one ally in play. It's Gondorian Spearman. And so no other allies in play. Then we advance to 2B. In your zeal to recover the gold, you have been led into an ambush. When revealed, each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for a Boar Clan enemy and puts it into play engaged with him. Shuffle the encounter deck. And then each player shuffles his discard pile into his draw deck and draws one card. Okay, so actually what I'm going to do, a lot of times I wouldn't do this, but I would normally grab Boar Clan Warrior. We're about to draw a card, and so it'll get a shadow card. But since Elrond has, since Elrond is ready, let's go ahead and just do Boar Clan Stalker. And so we'll put him into play, engage with us. He's got the force effect. When we draw a card, we'll put a resource token on Boar Clan Stalker. So for now, he's boosted by the ravine. Okay, so we've put the enemy into play, and now each player shuffles his discard pile into his draw deck and draws one card. So all these cards come back, and we draw a card. When we do, Boar Clan Stalker is going to get a resource, and that means he's going to get +1 attack and defense. Also, Hithagler Foothills gets a resource. Forced effect, after a player draws any number of cards, place one resource token here, and X is the number of resource tokens, so it's got a threat of 1. Okay, and so now he gets his shadow card. He's attacking for 2. We just need to attack back for 7, which I can do with Elrond and with Beorn. So since he's only attacking for 2, I'm just going to defend with Beorn. A lot of times I would have done Boar Clan Warrior, and I would defend with Gondorian Spearman, and that 1 damage makes it where Beorn by himself can attack and destroy Boar Clan Warrior. But let's hang on to Gondorian Spearman. So 2 attack against 1 defense. And that means 1 damage on Beorn. And so Beorn and Elrond and Gondorian Spearman attack for 8, which is enough. It's 1 more than needed to destroy Boar Clan Stalker. Okay, and now at the end of combat, we advance. At the end of the combat phase, advance to stage 3A. No way out. The Dunlandines are more clever than you thought. Using your gear as bait, they have lured you into a deep ravine where you are surrounded. A large warrior wearing a boar mantle strides forward and signals the attack. With no hope of escape, your only option is to fight. When revealed, put Chief Turk into play, engage with the first player. So he enters play, and he cannot have attachments, cannot leave play, so we can damage him as much as we want, but he just does not leave play. And he perpetually engages the first player. So if we send him to staging with Light in the Dark, for instance, he'd come right back. It's like Gollum in Dungeons Deep and Caverns Dim. Force, after an enemy engages a player, remove 1 time counter from the current quest. Right now there aren't any. Otherwise he would remove a time counter when he engaged us. Okay, time counters are X. X is 5 times the number of players in the game, so 5 time counters. If a hero is destroyed at this stage, the players lose the game. So it's very important we don't lose a hero. forced. After the last time counter is removed from the stage, the players make engagement checks. Then each engaged enemy makes an attack. If no heroes are destroyed by these attacks, the players win the game. Okay, so he is boosted by the ravine thing. Okay, refresh, and at the end of the refresh phase, we remove a time counter. And we advance. And we draw a card, which means that the Hythagler Stream is going to get a resource and an extra threat. Okay, we want to put out allies really as much as possible. We need to quest past this ravine. So we're going to do as best we can. Let's quest. Now it means we're going to, lose this Sylvan Refugee because we're about to chump, but what we have to progress past this ravine, or else we're going to get location locked, or we're going to thread out because of a Hythagler foothills if we're not careful. Let's go ahead and discard Expert Treasure Hunter to use Aowen's action. We're doing the best we can. And remember, Elrond does not exhaust a quest. We reveal Borkland Stalker. He is going to run into Ranger Spikes, and so he's only got a threat of 1. We made 8 progress. Perfect. This leaves play, goes to the victory display, so no more boosted Dunland enemies. We actually should have done this response. Let's say ally. There's an ally here and here, so we have a lot of allies in this deck. Okay, we'll travel to Hythagler Foothills. No negative repercussion there. So at this point, because Chief Turk says after an enemy engages a player, remove 1 time counter from the current quest. So if I optionally engage Borkland Stalker, it removes a time counter. And that would mean we'd be 3 away, and then at the end of the refresh phase, 2 away. So at this point, I don't think it's really worth engaging him because we're going to get down to 3. End of the round down to 2. Then the next round, if we had 1 enemy engage us, I don't know. I guess let's deal with him while we can. Let's go ahead and optionally engage Borkland Stalker. When we do, a time counter is removed because of Chief Turk's forced effect. After an enemy engages a player, remove 1 time counter from the current quest. Okay, so we have some attacking enemies here. We might as well just defend with Beorn. 0 attack against Beorn's defensive 1 and no shadow effect, so he had defended no problem. And then Chief Turk is going to attack for 5, and we're just going to defend with Knights of the Swan. And so he'll leave play. Attacking enemy gets +2 if the defending character is undamaged. So that means Sylvan Refugee, after a character leaves play, discard Sylvan Refugee from your hand or from play. Okay, and now we can attack for 5 and destroy Borkland Stalker. And the reason why we're not attacking Chief Turk is because he cannot leave play, so damage doesn't really matter against him. Okay, we discard the Shadow card and refresh, and at the end of the round, we enter the refresh phase, we remove a time counter. And next round. Let's go ahead and put out Errand Rider. And 1, 2, let's put out Rittermark's Finest. Okay, we're going to quest. And we'll discard Light of Valinor to boost Aowen. And now we reveal Dunland Berserker. And we've quested successfully. And let's go ahead and say we're about to win the quest. Well, let's say event, because we might get a feint or something. So event and event. No such luck. Okay, all right, so 8 progress. So we cleared Hythagler Foothills. And during the travel phase, nowhere to go. During the encounter phase, here comes Dunland Berserker. And when he engages us, we remove a time counter because of Chief Turk. After an enemy engages a player, remove one time counter from the current quest. All right, so Chief Turk's going to attack for 5. Let's go ahead and just jump with Errand Rider. Attacking the enemy gets +1 attack for each shadow card on it. All right, and now here is Dunland Berserker attacking for 2. Let's defend with Elrond. So 2 against 3. And Elrond blocks that attack. This guy, again, forced after the engaged player draws any number of cards, Dunland Berserker makes an attack. Well, let's attack and destroy Dunland Berserker. End of combat, we discard the shadow card, refresh, and at the end of the refresh phase, we remove our final time counter. After the last time counter is removed from the stage, the players make engagement checks. Right now, there aren't any enemies, so we can't engage anybody. And if there were like a Dunland Chieftain with Ranger Spikes on it, we would not have to make an engagement check against it. Then each engaged enemy makes an attack. If no heroes are destroyed by these attacks, the players win the game. So Chief Turk is going to attack us for 5, and we'll jump with Westfold Horsebreeder. Deal an additional shadow card, an additional +1. So, this is 8 attack. So that's why you don't want to defend with your heroes, because that's how you lose the game. She leaves play, and no hero was destroyed by these attacks, so the players win the game in 6 rounds. That's just a busy 6 rounds. I love this quest, man. I love it. Let's see what we maybe didn't see in our deck. We saw Expert Treasure Hunter, and again, during stage 1, a lot of times I'll just say attachment, hoping to get a lot of Valinor or Ranger Spikes. We didn't see Elrond's Council, but you always want to say during stage 1, when you're down to 1 time counter, you want to say event, hoping that you would draw an Elrond's Council or maybe a Feint or a Wizard's Voice to help you with combat. There at the end, you can see you just need chumps, and so Expert Treasure Hunter really helps just to get more allies into our hand. We never got to see him play, but Gandalf's really good during stage 3, or even stage 2, if you can play him. Well, I guess stage 2 you don't have a planning action window. So during stage 3, you could play Gandalf and destroy like a Boar Clan warrior. These guys have 4 health. So does Dunland Berserker. You can't destroy Boar Clan Stalker with Gandalf, but usually I don't choose Boar Clan Stalker to be the enemy engaged with me. It's usually Boar Clan warriors, so Gandalf can take him out rather than us having to attack him. Sometimes moving resources around with Errand Rider is really helpful to get resources onto Elrond. Same thing with Envoy of Pelargir. It's a way to redistribute resources. We didn't need any condition removal, but sometimes you do. There's some conditions. If you get in round 1 or 2, you're in trouble. And so we have 3 copies of Power of Orthanc and 3 copies of Miner of the Iron Hills. At this point in the progression, it's the only way you can remove them. So we have the best odds of actually, removing conditions. But that is it. That's the quest. Let me see the encounter deck. Yeah, Dunland Chieftain. Just trying to remember which enemies we saw. So yeah, Dunland Chieftain. He's really tough because whenever he engages you, you discard cards equal from the encounter deck equal to the number of cards in your hand, and you would put into play, engage with you, the topmost Dunland enemy. It's not a reveal, but it's still can be a hard card. So this is what you hope Ranger Spikes ensnares, is this guy. Otherwise, we saw all the enemies, locations. I don't remember if we did Hills of Dunland, but if you ever do play the quest to travel here, you have to draw a card. And when you travel and draw this card, the forced effect actually does fire, because when you do the travel opportunity and the travel effect, whatever card you do is always considered to be in the staging area. I don't remember for sure. I've played this a few times recently, so I don't remember which playthrough this, what all happened just now. I don't remember all the specifics, but that is important to know. Treacheries. We saw a lot of treacheries. It seems like this can be a bummer. So it's not so bad to keep an ally in your hand, if possible, to keep this from surging. If you would rather, I mean, just sometimes that could be advantageous. These are some of the conditions that you can discard. This was the worst one. In Need of Rest is a great way to destroy your heroes pretty quickly, and so a condition removal is needed. Well, that is it. That's the quest. 6 rounds, and my favorite quest so far in the progression. We will unfortunately step away from the Ringmaker cycle, and we're going to be doing the Nightmare versions of the We Must Away Airbreak of Day is the next quest. So that would be the Nightmare scenarios for the Hobbit Deluxe expansion. What's the name of that? Overhill and Underhill. I think that's the name of the Deluxe expansion. So we'll go back to the Hobbit, and from my favorite quest, Dunland Trap, to my absolute least favorite in the entire game, the Nightmare version of We Must Away Airbreak of Day. Is horrible. So it's kind of feast or famine, I guess. Well, again, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough and that you'll join me again next time. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.